Commander HFY sat behind his massive metal desk, reading through application files on his computer screen. His forearms moved quickly as he sorted through hundreds of documents. The Galactic Empire's elite combat division only accepted the best fighters from across the galaxy, and today he was reviewing applications from newly discovered planets. Most applications came from species he already knew well. The tall, scaly Saurons were always reliable fighters. The Nexus cyborgs, with their metal body parts, never got tired. The collective drones fought as one mind in perfect teamwork. These were the kinds of warriors the Empire needed. Then a new file appeared on his screen. The label read, Earth Human Application. HFY had never heard of humans before. He opened the file and looked at the pictures. The creatures looked strange and weak. They had no scales or thick skin, no extra arms or metal parts. They were not very tall or very fast. Their bodies seemed soft and breakable. "What kind of fighters are these supposed to be?" he said to himself. His assistant, a blue-skinned female named Kira, walked over to his desk. She had been watching him read the files all morning. "Sir, the diplomatic office says we should accept the human application," she said. "Earth just joined our alliance. They want to show good relations." HFY looked at the human fighter's photo again. The man had dark hair and brown eyes. He looked completely ordinary, even boring. His name was Marcus Chen, and he came from a place called North America on Earth. "Have you read his background?" HFY asked. Kira picked up another computer pad and scrolled through Marcus Chen's military record. He served in something called the Global Defense Force. Mostly peacekeeping work, it says here. Some regional conflicts, but nothing major. Very quiet service record. The commander looked at other applications on his desk. There was a Krillian warrior who had fought in 12 major battles. A Vespid pilot who could fly faster than most computers could calculate. A Nexus soldier who had single-handedly destroyed an entire enemy base. Then there was this human who had only done peacekeeping work. "I do not understand why Earth thinks this one can fight with our best warriors," HFY said. "Maybe humans fight differently than we do?" Kira suggested. "Each species has its own way of war." HFY thought about this. It was true that different aliens had different fighting styles. The Saurons used their size and strength. The Vespids used speed and quick strikes. The collective used numbers and perfect coordination, but humans looked like they had no special abilities at all. He kept reading Marcus Chen's file. The human had good test scores in strategy and tactics. His physical training results were average but acceptable. His psychological evaluation showed he was calm under pressure. Everything looked normal. Maybe too normal. "Send him an acceptance message," HFY finally said. "The diplomatic office is right. We need to keep good relations with Earth. Maybe this human will surprise us." 3 weeks later, Marcus Chen arrived at Training Station Omega-7, a massive space station that orbited a dead planet. The station was bigger than most cities, with thousands of rooms for soldiers, training areas, and spaceship hangars. Marcus walked through the main entrance carrying one small bag. Around him, other new recruits were arriving too. A group of Sauron warriors stomped past him, their heavy feet making loud sounds on the metal floor. Each one was 8 feet tall, with thick green scales and sharp claws. A squad of Nexus cyborgs walked by in perfect formation. Half their bodies were made of metal and computer parts. Their red electronic eyes scanned everything around them constantly. From the other direction came a cluster of collective drones. They all looked exactly the same and moved at the same time, like they were connected by invisible strings. Marcus stood in the middle of the hallway, looking around quietly. Compared to all these impressive warriors, he seemed very small and ordinary. Some of the other recruits noticed him and whispered to each other. "Is that supposed to be a fighter?" one Sauron asked his friend. "Humans must be very desperate if that is their best warrior," a Nexus replied. Marcus heard their comments, but did not react. He simply walked to the registration desk and gave his name to the robot clerk. "Marcus Chen from Earth reporting for combat training," he said in a calm voice. The robot processed his information and handed him a room key and training schedule. Welcome to Elite Combat Division Training, Human Chen. Your instructor will be Sergeant Veltar. Training begins at 600 hours tomorrow. Marcus took his key and walked toward the sleeping quarters. As he passed other groups of recruits, they continued to stare and whisper. He looked nothing like what they expected from a galactic fighter. In his small room, Marcus unpacked his few belongings. He had some basic clothes, a few personal items, and a small photo of Earth taken from space. He placed the photo on his desk and looked at it for a moment. Tomorrow would be his first day of training with the best fighters in the galaxy. The other recruits clearly did not think much of him or his species, but Marcus was not worried. He had been underestimated before. He lay down on his bed and closed his eyes. In a few hours, everyone would see what a human fighter could do. The training alarm rang loudly through the station at exactly 6 in the morning. Marcus woke up immediately and got dressed in his combat training uniform. In the hallway, other recruits were stumbling out of their rooms, some still half asleep. Sergeant Veltar was waiting in the main training room. He was a Krillian, which meant he looked like a giant lizard that walked on 2 legs. His scales were dark green and his eyes were bright yellow. He had fought in 7 major galactic wars and had scars all over his arms to prove it. "Listen up, recruits," Veltar shouted. "Today you start learning how real fighters work. Most of you will fail. Some of you will quit. A few might actually become useful soldiers." The training room was enormous, with high-tech computers and hologram projectors everywhere. The recruits stood in neat rows while Veltar explained the first exercise. "You will fight computer simulations of our enemies," he said. "Today's enemy is the swarm. They are insect-like creatures that attack in huge groups. They are fast, vicious, and stupid. Your job is to kill them before they kill you." Marcus had read about the swarm in his briefing materials. They were one of the Empire's main enemies, attacking planets and stealing resources. Most alien species found them very difficult to fight because they moved unpredictably. The first exercise was a group simulation. 20 recruits were put into a virtual reality battle against 50 swarm fighters. Marcus was teamed up with 2 Saurons, a Nexus, and a collective drone. As soon as the simulation started, the other species charged forward using their natural abilities. The Saurons relied on their strength and thick skin. The Nexus used its computer brain to calculate the best shots. The collective drone coordinated perfectly with other drones across the battlefield. Marcus hung back and watched how the swarm moved. While his teammates fought hard, he studied the enemy patterns. The insects seemed to attack randomly, but Marcus noticed they always tried to surround their targets. They also became confused when their prey did unexpected things. "Human, why are you not fighting?" one of the Saurons yelled at him. Marcus did not answer. Instead, he started moving in ways that looked wrong. He would run toward danger, then suddenly change direction. He would hide behind cover, then pop out in places the swarm did not expect. The other recruits thought he was being cowardly or stupid. But slowly, Marcus began killing more swarm fighters than anyone else. He was not stronger or faster than his teammates, but he seemed to know where the enemies would go before they went there. By the end of the simulation, Marcus had eliminated 15 swarm fighters. The best Sauron had only killed 8. "Interesting technique," Sergeant Veltar said, looking at Marcus with his yellow eyes. "Where did you learn to fight like that?" "Just seemed logical," Marcus replied. "The enemy has patterns. Once you see the patterns, you can predict them." The next few days brought more training exercises. Marcus continued to perform well, but not in ways that impressed his fellow recruits. He never showed off or celebrated his victories. He just quietly completed each task with steady, methodical precision. During weapons training, the aliens expected humans to be weak with advanced technology. But Marcus learned to use energy rifles and plasma cannons as quickly as anyone else. He was not the best marksman, but he never wasted shots. In strategy classes, Marcus gave answers that surprised the instructors. When asked how to attack a fortified swarm nest, most students suggested direct assault with heavy weapons. Marcus suggested psychological warfare. "Confuse them first," he said. "Make them think you are attacking from one direction, then hit them from another. Use their instincts against them." Instructor Veltar found this approach unusual. Most galactic species fought with honor and straightforward tactics. They used superior technology or physical abilities to win battles. This human seemed to think like the enemy, which was disturbing but effective. The final training test was individual combat simulation. Each recruit had to survive alone against increasing numbers of swarm fighters. Most aliens lasted between 5 and 10 minutes before being overwhelmed. When Marcus's turn came, something changed in his behavior. The calm, quiet human from the group exercises became something else entirely. He moved through the virtual battlefield like he had been born there. Marcus did not fight like the other recruits. He used the environment as a weapon, collapsing buildings on enemies and setting traps. He fought dirty, attacking swarm fighters when they were distracted or wounded. He showed no mercy and took no unnecessary risks. The simulation was supposed to end when the recruit was killed or gave up. Marcus kept fighting for 37 minutes, killing over 100 virtual enemies. The computer finally stopped the test because it had run out of swarm fighters to send against him. When Marcus came out of the simulation pod, the training room was completely silent. All the other recruits were staring at him. Some looked impressed, others looked afraid. "Where did you learn to fight like that?" Veltar asked again. Marcus thought about this question for a moment. "Earth has had some conflicts," he said. "You pick things up." Veltar reviewed the final scores that night. Marcus ranked 3rd overall among the new recruits. This was very good for what the Empire considered a primitive species, but not impossible. Other underdog races had occasionally produced excellent fighters. What bothered Veltar was not Marcus's scores, but how he had earned them. The human fought like someone who understood war in ways that went beyond training. He moved like he had been in real battles before, not just regional peacekeeping operations. The next morning, Veltar announced the training assignments. Marcus was assigned to the 47th Strike Wing, a combat unit known for difficult missions. It was a good assignment for a new graduate. As the recruits prepared to leave for their new posts, Veltar pulled Marcus aside. "I have been training fighters for 20 years, the instructor said. "I have seen warriors from 100 different worlds. You fight like someone who has seen real war." Marcus looked at him calmly. "Everyone has to learn somewhere." "Yes," Veltar said. "But where exactly did you learn?" Marcus picked up his bag and headed for the door. "Does it matter? You needed fighters." "Earth sent one." As Marcus left, Veltar wondered what kind of conflicts Earth had really experienced. Regional peacekeeping work did not usually produce soldiers who fought like that. Marcus arrived at his new assignment aboard the warship Galactic Pride. The 47th Strike Wing was based on this massive vessel, which patrolled the outer regions of Empire space. The ship was home to 200 fighters and their support crews. Captain Thornax commanded the 47th Strike Wing. He was a Krillian like Sergeant Veltar, but bigger and covered in more battle scars. He had fought the swarm for 15 years and survived encounters that killed most other warriors. "So you are the human everyone is talking about," Thornax said when Marcus reported for duty. "Your training scores were good, but training is not real combat. Out here, mistakes get you killed." "Understood, sir," Marcus replied. Thornax studied the human carefully. Marcus looked even smaller standing in the captain's office next to the 8-foot-tall alien. But something in the human's eyes made Thornax pause. They were calm, steady eyes that had seen serious things. "You will fly with Squadron 7, Thornax said. "Their last pilot was killed 2 weeks ago fighting swarm raiders. Try not to follow his example." Squadron 7 consisted of 5 pilots from different species. There was Korix, a Sauron who loved direct combat. Zen, a Nexus cyborg who calculated every move. Pixie, a small but fast Vespid who specialized in hit-and-run attacks. And Drum, a collective drone who coordinated with other drones across the fleet. When Marcus joined the squadron, the others greeted him politely but without enthusiasm. They had heard about his training scores, but they had also lost 3 new pilots in the past 6 months. Experience was what kept you alive out here, not test results. "Stay close to us during missions," Korix advised. "The swarm will target new pilots first. They can smell fear." "I will do my best," Marcus said. Their first mission together was routine patrol duty in the Sigma sector. This area had seen increased swarm activity lately, but nothing major. Intelligence reports suggested small raiding groups, maybe 10 or 20 fighters at most. The squadron launched from the Galactic Pride in their fighter ships. Each vessel was designed for the pilot species. Marcus flew a standard human-adapted fighter with basic weapons and shields. They flew through space for 2 hours without seeing any enemies. The Sigma sector was mostly empty space with a few dead planets and asteroid fields. It was the kind of place raiders liked to hide. "Contact!" Zen suddenly announced. "Multiple bogies coming out of the asteroid field. Looks like... Wait, that cannot be right." "What do you see?" Captain Thornax asked over the radio from the main ship. "I count over 200 swarm fighters," Zen said, his computer brain rechecking the numbers. "This is not a raiding party. This is a full invasion fleet." Through his cockpit window, Marcus could see the dark shapes of swarm ships emerging from behind the asteroids. They looked like giant metal insects with wings and claws. 200 was far more than 5 fighters could handle. "All squadrons, pull back to the main fleet," Thornax ordered. "We need reinforcements." But the swarm had planned this trap well. More enemies appeared from different directions, cutting off the retreat routes. The 47th Strike Wing was surrounded and outnumbered 40-1. "This is bad," Pixie said over the radio. "We cannot fight this many." Marcus watched the swarm ships moving into attack formation. They flew in chaotic patterns that looked random but actually followed specific hunting behaviors. He had studied these patterns during training, but seeing them in real combat was different. "They are trying to panic us," Marcus said calmly. "If we scatter, they will pick us off one by one." "What do you suggest, human?" Korix asked. "Fight them all at once?" Marcus studied the enemy formation more carefully. The swarm ships were grouping together for a massive charge, but this also made them predictable. "They always attack the strongest target first," Marcus said. "If we make ourselves look weak and vulnerable, they will ignore standard tactics and rush in for an easy kill." "That sounds like suicide," Drum said. "Trust me," Marcus replied. "I have seen this before." Without waiting for permission, Marcus broke formation and flew directly toward the largest group of swarm fighters. His ship appeared to be damaged and flying erratically, like a wounded animal. The swarm took the bait immediately. Dozens of fighters abandoned their formation to chase what looked like an easy target. They swarmed around Marcus's ship, trying to get close enough for killing strikes. Then Marcus changed completely. His damaged ship suddenly came alive, spinning and diving through the pack of swarm fighters with deadly precision. His weapons fired constantly, each shot hitting its target. He moved through 3-dimensional space like he was dancing, never staying in one place long enough for enemies to lock onto him. "What is he doing?" Pixie whispered. Marcus was not just fighting the swarm, he was hunting them. He seemed to know exactly where each enemy would move before they moved there. When swarm fighters tried to surround him, he was already gone. When they attempted coordinated attacks, he disrupted them by killing key pilots. "All squadrons follow the humans' lead," Captain Thornax ordered. "Attack while they are confused." The rest of Squadron 7 dove into battle, supporting Marcus as he carved through the enemy formation. What should have been a massacre turned into a victory as the swarm's careful tactics fell apart. Marcus fought like a machine designed for killing. There was no emotion in his movements, no hesitation or doubt. He simply identified targets, calculated the best approach, and eliminated them with efficient brutality. Other pilots across the fleet stopped their own fights to watch the human work. He moved through space combat like he had been born there, using every piece of debris and energy signature as a weapon. When the battle ended 2 hours later, the swarm fleet was completely destroyed. The 47th Strike Wing had lost only 3 ships, which was almost impossible given the odds they had faced. Marcus had personally destroyed 47 enemy fighters. Back on the Galactic Pride, the pilots gathered in the briefing room for the after-action report. Everyone was celebrating the impossible victory, but Marcus sat quietly in the corner, cleaning his equipment. 47 confirmed kills in your first real combat, Captain Thornax said to him. That breaks several galactic records. Marcus looked up from his work. The enemy made predictable choices. Once you understand their behavior, they become easy to counter. Where did you learn to fight like that? Thornax asked. Training simulations do not teach that kind of combat experience. Marcus thought about this question. He had been asked the same thing many times during training, and the answer was always complicated. Earth has had some conflicts over the years, he said. You learn things. Thornax studied the human more carefully. During the battle, Marcus had shown skills that took most pilots years to develop. He fought like someone who had been in hundreds of real combats, not just peacekeeping operations. What kind of conflicts? Thornax pressed. Marcus finished cleaning his weapon and stood up. Does it matter? The job got done. As Marcus left the briefing room, the other pilots watched him go. They had gained a new respect for humans, but also a new fear. Marcus had killed 47 enemies without showing any emotion afterward. No celebration, no regret, no trauma. Just professional efficiency. Captain Thornax decided he needed to know more about Earth's military history. Something about Marcus's background did not match what the Empire had been told about human conflicts. Captain Thornax sat in his private office 3 days after the battle, staring at a commendation form on his computer screen. Marcus Chen deserved recognition for his incredible performance, but Thornax needed complete military records for the official paperwork. The standard file from Earth Command contained basic information about Marcus's service in the Global Defense Force. It mentioned peacekeeping operations and regional conflicts, but gave no details about actual combat experience. Thornax sent a formal request to Earth Command for Marcus's complete military history. He expected to receive information about a few small wars or police actions. What arrived 12 hours later changed everything he thought he knew about humans. The file was enormous. It contained thousands of pages of combat reports, mission records, and psychological evaluations. Thornax began reading and quickly realized he was looking at the history of a professional killer. Marcus Chen had not participated in peacekeeping operations. He had fought in 7 major conflicts across Earth over a 15-year period. The names alone were frightening: the water wars, the corporate conflicts, the African resource crisis, the Pacific Naval Campaign, the European Urban Combat Zone. Each conflict showed Marcus gaining new skills and higher kill counts. He had started as a basic infantry soldier during something called the Border Wars, where he learned urban combat and guerrilla tactics. By the end of his career, he was leading special operations teams behind enemy lines, but the numbers were what made Thornax feel sick. Marcus's confirmed kill count was 2,147 enemy combatants. Thornax read the number 3 times to make sure he was not making a mistake. In his 15 years of galactic combat, Thornax had killed perhaps 50 enemies total. Most career soldiers in the Empire never killed more than 100 enemies in their entire lives. This human had killed almost 3,000. Thornax kept reading. The psychological evaluations were the most disturbing part. Marcus showed no signs of combat trauma or stress. Military doctors had tested him regularly for problems, but he adapted to violence with what they called unusual efficiency. One evaluation noted, "Subject shows remarkable ability to compartmentalize violent actions. He treats combat as a technical problem to be solved rather than a traumatic experience. This allows him to function normally in civilian situations while maintaining peak performance in combat roles." Another report said, "Subject demonstrates advanced tactical thinking and pattern recognition abilities. He appears to learn enemy behaviors faster than most soldiers and can predict hostile actions with unusual accuracy. This may explain his high survival rate in extreme combat situations." Thornax realized he was looking at something that did not exist in the galactic military, a natural-born killer who felt no guilt about killing. But the file contained more than just Marcus's personal record. It included background information about the conflicts he had fought in, and this information made Thornax question everything he knew about Earth. The water wars had killed 37 million people. The corporate conflicts had resulted in 62 million deaths. The Pacific Naval Campaign had destroyed entire island nations. These were not regional peacekeeping operations. These were massive wars that would have been considered galactic disasters if they had happened anywhere else in the Empire. But Earth had fought these conflicts using only primitive technology and raw strategic thinking. Thornax called up his computer terminal and began researching Earth's full military history. What he found made him understand why Marcus fought the way he did. Humans had been at war for most of their recorded history. In the past 1,000 years alone, they had fought hundreds of major conflicts. They had developed weapons, tactics, and strategies that the galactic community had never imagined. Earth's armies did not rely on superior technology like most species. They won wars through psychological manipulation, resource denial, information warfare, and what human military texts called applied brutality. The files contained details about human tactics that made Thornax uncomfortable. Humans deliberately targeted enemy civilian populations to break morale. They used biological and chemical weapons when convenient. They employed psychological torture and propaganda to turn enemies against each other. Most disturbing was how efficiently humans had industrialized killing. Earth's wars were not fought by individual warriors seeking honor. They were fought by massive armies using coordinated strategies designed to kill as many enemies as possible with minimum resources. One human conflict, called World War II, had killed over 70 million people in 6 years, using weapons that were primitive by galactic standards. The Empire's longest war, the Nexus Rebellion, had lasted 50 years and killed only 2 million beings across 12 star systems. Thornax began to understand that the Empire had made a terrible mistake when evaluating human military capability. They had looked at Earth's most recent peaceful period and assumed this represented normal human behavior. The truth was that humans had only stopped fighting major wars because they had run out of enemies on their own planet. Thornax sent an emergency message to Empire Command, requesting immediate review of all human military records. He also ordered psychological evaluations for every human currently serving in galactic forces. The results came back within a week, and they confirmed Thornax's worst fears. Every single human in the Empire's military had kill counts that exceeded galactic averages by factors of 10 or more. The peaceful humans from recent years all had backgrounds in what Earth called special operations, or counterterrorism. Even worse, the psychological evaluations showed that these humans were completely normal by their species' standards. They showed no unusual stress or mental problems. To humans, extreme violence was just another job skill. Empire psychologists tried to understand how an entire species could be so comfortable with killing. Their conclusion was that humans had evolved in a way that made them perfect predators. Unlike other intelligent species that had developed beyond their violent instincts, humans had kept their hunting behaviors and simply made them more efficient. Captain Thornax called Marcus to his office after receiving all these reports. The human entered and stood at attention, showing no awareness that anything unusual was happening. "I have been reading your complete military file," Thornax said carefully. Marcus nodded. "Is there a problem, sir?" "Your kill count is impressive," Thornax said, not sure how to approach this conversation. "Most galactic soldiers do not achieve those numbers in their entire careers." "Earth has had more conflicts than most places," Marcus replied. "You learn to be efficient." Thornax studied the human's face. Marcus showed no pride about his kill count, but also no shame or regret. It was just a fact to him, like his height or eye color. "What kind of training produces soldiers like you?" Thornax asked. Marcus thought about this question. "We start learning military strategy in school. History classes cover famous battles and tactics. Most children play war games. Military service is considered honorable work." "And killing enemies? How do humans deal with that psychologically?" Marcus looked confused by the question. "You identify the threat, neutralize it efficiently, and move to the next objective. Why would that be a psychological problem?" Thornax realized that Marcus genuinely did not understand why other species found killing traumatic. To humans, it was simply another skill to master. "How many humans like you are there?" Thornax asked. Marcus considered this carefully. "Like me? I am probably average for my specialization. Earth has much better soldiers than me." The words hit Thornax like a physical blow. Marcus was not exceptional among humans. He was average. That meant there were humans walking around with kill counts in the tens of thousands, maybe hundreds of thousands. It meant Earth's true military capacity was beyond anything the Empire had ever encountered. Thornax dismissed Marcus and immediately sent another emergency report to Empire Command. The subject line was simple: "We have a problem." The emergency session of the Galactic Council convened on the capital world of Centaurus Prime. Representatives from all major species gathered in the massive council chamber, their faces showing worry and fear. Captain Thornax's report about human military capabilities had created panic throughout the Empire's leadership. Admiral Kethvar, the Empire's highest military commander, stood at the center of the chamber. He was an ancient Nexus cyborg who had served for over 2 centuries. His mechanical voice echoed as he addressed the council. "We face an unprecedented situation," he announced. "Our intelligence about the human species was completely wrong. They are not the peaceful newcomers we believed them to be." The Admiral activated a holographic display showing statistics from Earth's military history. Numbers appeared in the air above the council members, and several representatives gasped when they saw the data. "In the past 1,000 Earth years, humans have fought over 3,400 major conflicts," Admiral Kethvar continued. "Their casualty rates exceed our worst galactic wars by factors we cannot comprehend." Councillor Vexhai, the Krillian representative, raised one of his 4 arms. "How did our intelligence services miss this? We evaluated Earth for 5 years before accepting them into the Empire. The humans showed us their most recent peaceful period," the Admiral explained. "They deliberately hid their true military history. What we thought were regional conflicts were actually massive wars by our standards." The holographic display changed to show Marcus Chen's military record. The council members studied the kill count in horrified silence. "This single human has eliminated more enemies than some of our entire military divisions," Admiral Kethvar said. "And according to his own testimony, he is merely average by human standards." Councillor Thrix, a small gray-skinned Vespid, spoke in her high-pitched voice. "How many humans like this are currently serving in our forces?" "Over 12,000 humans are now active in various military roles across the Empire," the Admiral replied. Our psychological evaluations show they all have similar backgrounds and capabilities. The chamber erupted in worried conversations as representatives realized the implications. The Empire had unknowingly recruited thousands of super soldiers who could outfight their best warriors. "What do we know about Earth's total military capacity?" asked Counselor Drum, speaking for the collective hive mind. Admiral Kethvar's mechanical face showed what might have been fear if he still had organic emotions. Earth's current population is 8 billion humans. Their military traditions suggest that roughly 10% could be trained for combat roles. That means 800 million potential soldiers. Counselor Vexhai finished the calculation. Each one capable of killing thousands of enemies. The number hung in the air like a dark cloud. The entire Galactic Empire's military forces numbered only 50 million troops across hundreds of worlds. Earth alone could theoretically field an army 16 times larger than the Empire's complete forces. "There is more disturbing information," Admiral Kethvar continued. "Human military doctrine emphasizes total warfare. They do not fight for honor or territory. They fight to completely destroy their enemies by any means necessary." The display showed examples of human weapons and tactics that the Empire had never encountered. Chemical weapons that killed through environmental contamination. Biological weapons that targeted specific genetic patterns. Psychological warfare designed to drive enemy populations insane. "They have spent millennia perfecting the science of killing," the Admiral said. "While we developed advanced technology and peaceful diplomacy, humans have been learning how to wage war more efficiently." Counselor Shen, representing the peaceful healer species, trembled as she spoke. "Should we consider them a threat to galactic security?" This question created another round of heated discussion. Some council members argued for immediate restrictions on human military service. Others wanted to expel humans from the Empire entirely. A few suggested using human military expertise against the Empire's enemies. "The humans have made no hostile moves against Empire worlds," Admiral Kethvar pointed out. "They appear to be honoring their alliance agreements, but their mere presence changes the balance of power in this galaxy." During these discussions, Marcus Chen continued his normal duties aboard the Galactic Pride, unaware of the political storm surrounding his species. He flew patrol missions, trained with his squadron, and maintained his equipment with the same quiet efficiency he had always shown. His fellow pilots had grown to respect his abilities, though they still found his emotional detachment disturbing. Marcus treated combat like other species treated routine maintenance work, just another job that needed to be done properly. 3 days after the council meeting, Captain Thornax received orders to brief Marcus about the political situation. The Empire's leadership wanted to understand human intentions and capabilities from a direct source. Thornax found Marcus in the squadron ready room, reading technical manuals about swarm tactics. The human looked up as the captain approached. "Chen, we need to discuss your species' military background," Thornax said. Marcus closed his manual and gave Thornax his full attention. "What would you like to know, sir?" "The Council is concerned about human military capacity. They want to understand Earth's intentions in joining the Empire." Marcus considered this question carefully. Earth joined the Empire for trade opportunities and access to galactic technology. We have no territorial ambitions beyond our own solar system. "But your military capabilities far exceed what you initially reported," Thornax said. "Some council members view this as deception." "We reported our recent conflicts accurately," Marcus replied. "If the Empire wanted information about older wars, they should have asked more specific questions." Thornax realized that humans viewed this as a simple misunderstanding rather than deliberate deception. They had answered the questions they were asked, but had not volunteered additional information. "How many soldiers like you does Earth have?" Thornax asked directly. Marcus thought about this. "Define like me. If you mean soldiers with similar training and experience, probably several million. If you mean soldiers with better training and experience, maybe a few 100,000. The numbers hit Thornax like physical blows. Marcus was describing military forces larger than the Empire's total population of some species. "Are any of them coming to join galactic forces?" Thornax asked. "Earth is sending more military advisors next month," Marcus said. "About 50,000 volunteers for various positions. Most of them have more combat experience than I do." Thornax felt sick. Marcus had just described an incoming force that could potentially conquer the entire Empire if they chose to do so. "Chen," Thornax said carefully, "what would happen if Earth decided the Empire was a threat to human interests?" Marcus looked genuinely confused by the question. "Why would Earth view the Empire as a threat? You have honored all alliance agreements and provided the trade opportunities you promised." "But hypothetically," Thornax pressed, "if relations broke down and conflict became necessary?" Marcus was quiet for a long moment, thinking about something he clearly did not want to consider. "Earth would prefer to avoid that scenario," he finally said. "It would be inconvenient for everyone involved." "Inconvenient?" Thornax asked. "The Empire covers thousands of star systems with billions of inhabitants," Marcus explained. "A conflict of that scale would require significant resource allocation and probably take several years to resolve completely." Thornax stared at the human. Marcus was not bragging or making threats. He was simply providing a tactical assessment of how his species would approach galactic warfare. And he spoke about conquering the entire Empire the way other soldiers might discuss capturing a single enemy outpost. "Chen," Thornax said quietly, "exactly how good are Earth's best soldiers compared to you?" Marcus smiled for the first time since Thornax had known him. It was not a pleasant expression. "Sir, Earth's best soldiers do not usually take assignments like this. They handle more challenging problems." "What kind of problems?" "The kind that entire civilizations cannot solve by themselves," Marcus said. As Marcus left the ready room, Thornax finally understood what the Empire had done. They had not recruited soldiers from a peaceful species seeking to learn galactic warfare. They had invited the galaxy's most naturally gifted predators to examine their military systems, learn their weaknesses, and integrate into their command structure. And 50,000 more were coming next month. Thornax sent one final report to Empire Command. It contained only one recommendation: treat humans as valued allies, honor every agreement, and never under any circumstances give them a reason to view the Empire as a problem that needed to be solved. Because if that happened, the Empire would discover what 8 billion humans could accomplish when they set their minds to total victory.